Hello, this video is to document some of the changes from stock of this TZ750A that I'll be putting on eBay. I'll start from the front of the bike and just work my way to the rear. All of the detail of the bike will be in the eBay ad. This is just an aid to help people understand exactly what they're bidding on. I'm going to start with the instrument cluster. TZ's only had one temperature gauge. This bike was set up for two. The previous owner welded this bracket on. That is not original. Some of the fasteners are also not original, although I probably have them in the box. I've gone all through this bike a couple of times actually, just cleaning it up, rebuilding the engine. But again, this video is just to show what is not exactly original from when the bike was first manufactured by Yamaha. You notice the holes in the rotors. That's not original. Those are half-inch holes. The spokes are stainless steel. I still have the double-butted spokes. I laced the wheels up when I first received the bike. The original spokes are in good shape. There's nothing wrong with them. They just needed to be cleaned, and it was just quicker for me to buy new spokes for it. But I did retain the originals. The calipers have been swapped to the back side of the fork legs. They should be on the front. And as you see, the finish of the lower fork leg has been sandblasted and painted, so that's not the original finish. Again, most of the bolts and fasteners on here are original, but the ones that aren't I probably have in the box. Radiator is the original radiator. If I were to put this bike back on the track, I would probably replace it. It doesn't leak, but it works fine. The engine actually has 6 pedal reed valves in it. That's what these aluminum plates are for, to space the manifold boots off to allow room for the 6 pedal reed valves, which are bigger than the 4 pedal stock. Makes it breathe a little bit better. These are the original carburetors with the bell mouths. It's not the electrons that you typically see. These cylinders, I believe, are off the D model. I don't know if you can see it. The part number is 40970. And each cylinder block is 373 cc's. So this is a full-blown 750, not the 700 that it originally was when it left the factory. Another change was to the frame. You'll notice that the shocks are laid forward. I'm going to move this light here. Maybe I can get a little more light on it. In any case, you can see where the original shock mount was for the upper shocks. The previous owner had welded on this attachment, removed the frame member that used to go from here down to here. These shocks are Koni shocks with an aftermarket aluminum body. That was also a modification that a lot of racers made during that time. One part that is missing is the link that goes from the master cylinder, rear master cylinder, down to the pedal. I forgot to put a circlip on the pin and it fell out when I was test riding the bike last time I took it up and down the road. The bike is also missing the strap that cradles the bottoms of all 4 expansion chambers. These are the flat pipes that came with the original models. The strap really isn't needed. This bike also has what I believe is a modification, being this piece cross member that goes across the lower frame tubes, and there are brackets welded to the inner pipes with bolts that come up and secure the inner pipes, keeping them from falling down. I believe that's why the bike did not come with the strap. None of the bolts are safety wired. I just never got around to it after I took the bike apart and cleaned it all up and put it back together. The frame is powder coated, so that also is not original. The gussets on the stingers are gone because I used this bike as a street bike back in the 70s. It has a Michigan title on it, and I had silencers on it, so the gussets were in the way of the silencers. So that is not original. You'll also notice that the tire is not the original size. This is an old Michelin slick that came out of old stock from Racer Supply. It's one size too big for this bike. I say that because there's very little room or clearance in the swing arm. It fits, but only by using a long chain and moving the rear axle almost as far back as it can go in the swing arm. This bike is very original. I don't know if you can see the date code on the coolant hoses, but they're 1974. All the rubber is in pretty good shape on this bike, although the dust boots on the forks are pretty hard. They still function, still has the rubber caps on the tops of the forks. One rubber part that is missing is the little strap that used to go from the horizontal supports of the carburetors up to this tab on the frame. They basically didn't do anything. I assume they were there to help support the carburetors, but honestly they've never needed any support. Coming around to this side of the bike, you can see it is very clean. One other thing that is not original on this bike, although it appears original, is the CDI box. When I went to start this bike up a couple of weeks ago, I discovered that I'd lost spark. I found an open wire in the winding in the stator. I repaired that, received spark, but only on 2 cylinders. From testing the CDI best I could, I determined that the CDI box had gone bad. This is the original Hitachi CDI. So I found a guy right here in Michigan that is an expert at rebuilding these things. Sent it out to him. I'll have all of his information in the eBay ad in case there's anyone else out there looking for a new CDI box for their TZ. But in any case, what he did was reuse the old casing and just the grommet for the harness going into the CDI box, and replaced everything internal, all the electrical components within the box, with updated components that are supposedly stronger. Base timing didn't change. I've run the bike since then, and everything runs fine. There is no rev limiter though with this system, so whoever runs this bike will have to remember that the rev ceiling has been raised. Other than that, the bike is very original. I have the original fairing for it, although I believe the A models came from Yamaha without fairings, and it was just up to the race teams to either get an AirTech fairing or perhaps order one through the dealer. I'm not sure. One thing I want to point out on this fairing is that when it was painted, I took the fairing and the bike, actually, or all the painted parts, to a local painter and asked him to paint a red stripe down the center of the fairing. Gave him a picture. I knew I was in trouble when he held the fairing upside down, but honestly, the paint scheme on the fairing wasn't a priority for me at the time. But in any case, the red stripe is off location, so when it's mounted on the bike, it actually angles up towards the back. So that's the TZ750. All the details will be in the eBay ad. It's a very clean bike. Very nice machine. I've owned it since 1978, but it's time to let it go. Let somebody else enjoy it, either put it on the track as a parade bike. Serious racers would probably want to update the suspension. That's it. I think I'll take it outside and start it. Looks like the rain has stopped. I'll have to push it in my garage. I don't have a set of rollers, but you'll be able to hear it run, and then you'll also be able to view another video from a few years ago when I started it up when it wasn't raining, so you can get some idea of how it runs. But it's a strong running bike. Goodbye.